Hi guys, I'm Joe Garrett, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing my two recording rigs in the age-old debate of analog versus digital. So I've had a few people ask in the comments what I prefer out of the two, and I thought what better way than to show how they all sound in one video. So I'm incredibly fortunate enough to have all of these options, but I'm going to be showing my quad Cortex, I'm going to be showing my Victory V40 head running through the matching cab and mic'd up with an SM57, and I'm going to be showing that same head running through a universal audio aux box. So essentially we've got completely digital, completely analog, and then a bit of a hybrid of the two, because the aux box is using the preamp and the power amp stage of the head, but it's using its own cab sim. In the comparison, we're going to be looking at things like latency and response, the overall sound and the feel in the room, ease of use, and the variety of tones you get from each setup. So we're going to cut to some guitar playing in a second, and it's going to be one of those three options. So when you hear it, please write in the comments which option you think it is, and then towards the end of the video, I'll reveal whether you were right or not. And then after we've heard all of the options, I'll discuss in detail my thoughts on my analog or my digital rig, why I still have an analog rig in this day and age, and the pros and cons. So stay tuned for that. As always, please like and subscribe if you like the content that you're seeing, and please click the bell icon to be notified for more videos like this. So if you've seen any videos on this channel before, you may have noticed in the playthrough that I was using something that I've not had in any of my videos before, and that is the Xvive, I believe it's Xvive, A58 guitar wireless system. So just to be clear, Xvive haven't sponsored this video. They just reached out and asked me if I wanted to try out their new wireless system and put it in one of their videos. And I gladly said yes, because I haven't used a wireless system in so long, and I was quite excited to try one out. So let's open this up. Cool, so in the box you get a neat little pouch. I do believe they have a wireless charging version of this, kind of like an AirPods case. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we've got a receiver and a transmitter. Now, I used to use a wireless system in one of my first bands, and it was a Sennheiser, one of those sort of packs that you put on your strap and gaffer tape it on so you hope it doesn't fall off, and then the big old receiver that you'd put near your amp. So this is the first time I've used one this small, and it's pretty cool. Just plugs into your guitar, and I have had a little try of it already, and it sounds great. I don't notice any tone difference, and the latency is real minimal, so much so that I can't feel it. So it says you're getting less than 5 milliseconds latency. So obviously when we're talking about analog and digital, there are conversions happening, and that introduces latency. So I was interested to see how these hold up when you're using it with the quad Cortex or when I'm using it with my amp. And honestly, when I tried it, I didn't notice much difference at all. And the same with the tone. It didn't suck any tone out. Battery life as well, up to 5 hours, which is plenty. And you just charge it with a USB-C charger. Now also, I am going to be starting to gig my solo projects. I've just released 2 singles. I've got an EP coming out eventually. And yeah, I'm going to want to gig that. So I would definitely use this. Now, the only thing with the latency would be if I was using in-ear monitors. I've never used them before. Even in my old band, Fell Silent, I never used in-ears. So that's something that I don't actually have any knowledge of, but I understand that if I'm using this wireless system plus in-ear monitors and I'm using the quad Cortex, which is digital, it's going to start adding up on the latency count. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned right now, the latency is not a problem when it comes to the wireless system on its own. So yeah, I'll put a link in the description for this if you want to buy one yourself and check it out. But yeah, I was really interested because I already use Xvive products. The power supply that's on my board is the one that's been on there forever, since I got my amp and since I got my pedal board. It's awesome. It's lasted, and it powers all the pedals that I need it to. And it's a real small footprint as well. And yeah, just to be clear, all of the playthroughs that you're going to hear on this video, as well as when I'm setting up the tones in a second, is going to be with the transmitter and receiver plugged into my guitar and either the amp or the quad Cortex. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how I have set up the recordings. So I'm in Ableton. I've got input 6 here is the mic in front of the cab, the SM57. Input 1 and 2 stereo, that is the aux box, and I'll show you the software here. So this is just something I set up when I first got the aux actually. It's using 2 mics, the condenser 414 and the ribbon 121, and they're panned hard left and right, no effects on. Yeah, it's basically that. And then input 3 and 4 is my quad Cortex, which is on right now. So let's take a look at that one first. We'll go into Cortex control. Now, I just want to be clear, I'm not making the same video I did before, which, if you haven't seen it, I captured my Victory V40 and I did a comparison of the capture and the actual amp. This isn't that video, so I'm not using that. I'm just basically showing how easy it is to set up a tone, because I think that's part of it as well. You know, plugging into an amplifier is really, really quick. It's plug and go. Pedal board you've used for years, you just plug that in as well, it's all set up. So you want digital to be quick as well, and that's how quick the quad Cortex is to set up a tone. Now, I've used just stock quad Cortex stuff and there's no captures, it's just the models. So I've got the Captain 50 here, and I've basically got the EQ and the gain staging set exactly how my Victory is. You know, the preamp gain is on 9 o'clock and the master's on full. And then my output is just to get my level right as I'm recording. I'm going into a Zilla cab in stereo, and then I'm literally just going to be using this green 808 for my lead. That is because on my pedal board I've got a mini tube screamer. So it's going to get a similar tone, and I've set that up similar to how it is in the analog as well. So yeah, they're going to sound different. It's not the same amp, but this video isn't about that. It's more to just show you the difference and how both of my rigs work. I've also got a compressor here, but again, that's stock. That's a dual compressor. And I think they're just the standard settings when you load it up first time. Now the reverb, the reason I've chose the Nordic Concert Hall is because that's what I'm going to use as a plugin for the analog recordings. So my amp recordings and the aux recordings. So on here, look, Valhalla Vintage Verb. That is what this is modeled on. Okay, so we're going to have a very, very similar reverb as well. So yeah, this is how the Morgan 50 sounds. Okay, and then with the overdrive on. Oops, wrong one. Sounds great. Let's put a bit of delay on. So I've set this delay up similar to the delay that I have on my pedal board as well, my analog pedal board. Okay, so yeah, that's how that's set up. Let's now go over to the amp. Now, this is literally just an SM57 in front of the cab, in the center, right up against it. Cool, so let's switch this over. I'm gonna plug this receiver now into the pedal board. Okay, so we're into the amp now. And just to be clear, I've gain staged this. You can see here, everything's a similar sort of level. So I did this before recording. Just got to make sure the aux is the right level, and then the input gain for the microphone is the same. And obviously the quad Cortex is quite easy. You can see your output level and where it needs to hit before it even goes into your DAW. So this is actually recording both at the same time, the aux and the mic. So I'll just basically cut between and I'll show you which one's which. Okay, so this is the mic'd up cab. Okay, and then the aux. Okay, now we'll try the lead tone, so I'm going to switch on the Tube Screamer pedal. So this is the mic'd up cab. Sounds like a Tube Screamer. Let's try the aux now. So yeah, that's both recordings. Let's just try it one more time with the delay on. Also, I've got my hyperluminal compressor, the dark glass compressor on the pedal board. That's just always on. So yeah, this is the Echo Sex Fox Gear delay. So with the preamp gain that low, the delay's perfectly fine in front. That was the mic'd up cab. Now the aux box. Standard guitarist jamming in A minor pentatonic. Okay, so that was all three ways of recording it. Hopefully you could hear a big difference between the three. I'm sure you will. And hopefully you have your favorites as well. Now remember, this is going to be different in the room to recorded. You know, I think in terms of if I had the exact same capture, well, you'll see it. And if you check out my other capture video where I captured that head, you'll see how close they are when they're recorded. But yeah, in the room, it's completely different. Like I felt different in the room than recording it. That won't come across in the recording, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. I feel like this whole analog versus digital debate, you can't tell on a recording. It's in the room where it matters. Okay, so the last thing I just want to show is something that has just occurred to me. I have recorded obviously the mic and the aux at the same time. Now this is just to show you how digital things add a bit of latency. Now if I zoom in on a waveform, this is the mic at the top and this is the aux recording, you can see that the mic is slightly ahead. Now if I take that peak there, around about there, and then go to sort of here, you can see down the bottom here, that duration is like 2 milliseconds. So yeah, maybe the aux is adding 2 milliseconds, but yeah, it's using an amp sim. So everything's adding a few milliseconds as you go. Okay, so now for the reveal of the recording that you heard at the beginning of the video. That was in fact the amp and cab mic'd up with an SM57. So yeah, please let me know in the comments which you think is your favorite sound. And yeah, let's have a discussion about it. Okay, so now some of my general thoughts on the different rigs that I have. Honestly, for me now, it all comes down to feel with an analog rig. If I'm using a valve amp, you can feel it in the room. Now, I'm obviously using Adam A7X monitors, which are pretty good, but they're never going to sound like a guitar cab in the room. It's just loud, and guitar cabs are made to push the volume and be played on stage, whereas studio monitors are nice and flat, and for a studio like this, it's just a different world. Now, when it comes to recording the amp, that's where things are very, very close now, I find. And it all comes down then to convenience and versatility for me. I can get any tone I want from the Quad Cortex, whereas this amp is a clean amp. It's going to give me that sound. Yes, I've got pedals that go into it, but really that's just your general compressor, tube screamer, and a bit of delay. When it comes to me recording my solo project, I'm using the Quad Cortex all the time because I know I can just get any sound I want when I'm producing a track. I think if I want that clean sound, then the amp does have the edge. But again, in my video that I linked earlier where I captured my victory, it's very, very similar now when it comes to recording. And also, if you find the right IR, it's going to sound great. Now, you've heard the difference now between the mic'd up cab and the aux as well. And I do think there's a big difference, and that mainly comes down to how you're recording your amp at home. I think the aux is really, really good if you want low volume, but you want to capture your raw head and then have a really good cab sim on the end of it. You know, you're not gonna have all the microphones in your studio unless you're very rich, that you have in the aux software. And it's probably not going to be in a room that is simulated in that software. Not to say it won't sound good. I still think a lot of the time when I record, I do really like the sound of that SM57 in front of the cab. But it all comes down to versatility then. And with the Quad Cortex, the fact that I can record a DI at the same time as the process sound is really good. With the aux software, yes, you can run a DI of the amp, basically bypassing the cab sim. It's still the preamp and the power amp section after all. So yeah, you're not really getting a true DI that you could then reamp nicely afterwards. So yeah, in terms of versatility and sounds, it's the Quad Cortex all day, but response and feel is always going to be an amp. You know, there's no conversion happening. You are plugging into an amplifier. But that being said, latency, I mean, a lot of people say, I think 10 milliseconds of latency is all good. I like it as little as possible. That's why I direct monitor when I'm using my Quad Cortex with my interface. So I'm basically getting only the latency that the blocks are introducing on the QC, because each of those blocks is adding latency. As your CPU percentage goes up, when you're looking at it on Cortex Control or whatever, it's just adding more and more latency. You notice that with sort of the pitch blocks as well, the transpose blocks, sorry. The lower you go, the more latency is introduced. And honestly, when you go past like 4 or 5 semitones, it gets a bit unplayable for me anyway. And then for feel in the room, if I'm using the aux, I'm literally using the monitors anyway. I'm not hearing the amp in the room, so that kind of becomes irrelevant a bit. And then I would choose the QC over it. But if I'm playing through the cab, then yeah, that's a different story. I think it's inspiring having the pedal board at your feet and not many controls. You set it up how you like it and it's just easy. I think it's a good writing tool to have in the studio. Just plug into an amp and have your pedals at your feet and just sit there and jam with not too much distractions. It's literally just the amp and it feels great in the room and it's loud. So yeah, that's why I've kept it. And also, you know, sometimes I'll put a recording on that I've got to play guitar on for session work and recording work. And I just know that it will be great with the Victory amp. And the main reason I think I've kept the analog rig is I feel like every guitarist should own at least one valve amp. It's just different plugging into it. But having said that, I probably use my Victory or analog setup 10% of the time, if that. The rest is the Quad Cortex. Finally, latency in the room when it comes to this. It's kind of irrelevant. It sounds fine, especially through the analog rig. But even with the digital setup that I had with my QC, yeah, latency is very minimal. And they say 4 milliseconds of latency is like being 4 foot away from your amp. So yeah, it's kind of pointless even really discussing it. But for someone with OCD like myself, I do like to keep it as minimal as possible. There's that sort of placebo effect sometimes that, can I feel it? And when I know there's not much latency, if any at all, I just feel better. If you've managed to stay all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it's been helpful. Please make sure to subscribe if you aren't already and you like the video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.